I must admit it is an amazing feeling to be here tonight to deliver a speech in uniform in Berlin, reunited 35 years ago, and on the day 80 years after the end of World War II. I would consider this as freedom, that we can enjoy this event here, this beautiful TEDxBerlin. For me, this is part of our freedom, and I think we should never take that freedom for granted. Considering the actual political situation globally, we should try our best and stand together to preserve that freedom. Collective memory needs to result in collective understanding on how much value this freedom has for all of us. This is not the topic, I know, but I wanted to say this. Let's talk about leadership. And you might say, okay, another leadership talk, number 1000. Might be. But what I want to reflect on is if or how principles of military leadership are transferable into the civilian world. I want to reflect on things like authenticity, reflect on trust, reflect on vulnerability. And I want to invite you on a trip to Liberia. Liberia, this beautiful West African country. Liberia in the year 2014. That year, the World Development Index ranked the country amongst, I think, the lowest 10% of nearly 200. And in the autumn of September in 2014, the country was hit by an Ebola outbreak of unprecedented magnitude. At the end, there was a death toll of several thousands attributable to that outbreak. In summer 2014, I came back from a 4 or 5 months deployment to Mazar-e-Sharif in Afghanistan. I was commanding our medical task force there. And in October of that same year, I was appointed commander of the military relief operation to Liberia. Before 2014, I took part in various relief operations. In 1994, we provided support for Rwanda. In 2000, we tried to support the reconstruction after the flooding in Mozambique. And after the disaster caused by the tsunami in 2004 in Indonesia, we constructed a field hospital to at least provide a bit of medical help to that part of Indonesia. So I thought I knew what to expect. I can assure you it was far worse. Arriving in Liberia, I found a completely uncoordinated mix of GOs, NGOs, press, and more or less convincing local authorities. It was an invasion of disaster relief into a country that was everything but prepared, neither for the outbreak nor for that relief invasion. After a few days, Hans Rosling arrived. Hans Rosling was one of the renowned epidemiologists and philosophers of the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, and he was invited those days, he was invited by the Liberian president. There was not any time for extensive bonding, or there was not any time for time-consuming reconnaissance or field studies. Hans was fast. After having analyzed the situation, he delivered a talk, and for the first time, we received valid statistics on that outbreak. Besides that, and that was even more important, besides that, he talked about himself, about his thoughts and his fears in a situation like that. So by presenting transparent facts on the one side, and on the other hand, by opening up personally, by showing his thoughts, by showing his vulnerability, Hans created trust. And so, Hans Rosling took over command. Informally. He was never appointed. There was no official ceremony, he was just there. And the effect was stunning. The whole relief invasion went into a 180 degrees different approach. Our support started to be coordinated. Hans gave room to all of us. We trusted him due to his transparency and authenticity. The activities and the projects became integrated and targeted a comprehensive common purpose. And finally, we contributed at least a bit to the management of that outbreak. During those days, I had a few chances to talk to Hans Rosling personally. His personality, his humbleness became kind of a beacon for me. Meeting him helped me to rethink and improve my own way to lead my teams in operations, exercises, or now being the commander of the military hospital in Hamburg. You all know that in the military there are commands, there are orders, and these orders will be followed, must be followed. But I realized that there is a significant difference giving orders to soldiers who are a team, trusting each other, or to a group of individuals who are not yet at that stage. Based on trust, the team knows that I will never overstretch their limits by an order for too long time. They know that I will have done a sound risk assessment, and maybe most important, they know the bigger picture behind that order. So they will not obey to the order, but they will execute it. And that is really a difference. With this, they know that they make a significant contribution to achieve our common goal. And with this, they will operate for one another and not just with one another. It is this for one another spirit that I am aiming at with my leadership. This is what Stan McChrystal, the famous four-star general of the American forces, calls shared consciousness and then empowered execution. Why should that whole story about complex emergencies, about Stan McChrystal, why should that be of interest for you? I think an epidemic of a highly contagious disease is a complex situation for sure. It is a complex emergency, and the current political situation, the global political situation, is complex as well on the strategic, on the operational, and also on the tactical level. And there are days when it resembles a complex emergency. It impacts the performance of your companies, of your university, of your schools, of your hospitals directly and indirectly. However, I am convinced that we can use the challenges of today as a chance for a sustainable transformation of the systems we are responsible for. This requires convincing, visionary, and sometimes also disruptive leadership. That kind of leadership must be always based on trust in teams. But this trust is not a one-way road, it is always mutual. It requires self-confidence and self-awareness of all team members, and building trust sometimes needs outer support. Sometimes it hurts to open up and to become vulnerable. Vulnerability, and with this authenticity, are fundamental enablers in this process, as well as core values. Core values have to be identified and agreed on in the teams. These values then are not negotiable and always serve as a constant ethical compass. To transform a group of individuals into a trusting team that operates in the for one another spirit might take some time. Let me assure you, it is worth every effort. You will experience the coherence when thinking and acting for each other becomes the guiding principles in the groups you are responsible for. Success in military operations requires that for one another spirit as indisputable prerequisite. If you want to succeed with your companies and manage the current challenges, you will need to aim for that spirit as well. Concerning leadership, I have seen a lot of things working on the military and on the civilian side. I've also seen approaches that simply failed. Be sure, transforming a team into a group, into a trusting group, is neither rocket science nor is it an overnight endeavor. To sum it up, And you might be surprised to get that summary from a higher-ranking military officer. For me, it worked like this. I needed, first of all, to become self-aware. That means I had to find, accept, and then live my true self. I had to identify my core values, I wrote them down, and meanwhile I reflect all my activities and my contacts against them. The values are not negotiable, everything else is. This supports inner strength, authenticity, and self-consciousness. With this self-consciousness and with these core values, I can open up. I can take vulnerability as a strength and so prepare the ground for mutual trusts in my groups. This takes time. It often needs a transformation of the own mindset and, of course, of culture in military and civilian settings. It is not easy. It definitely requires constant leadership commitment and accountability. However, finally working and living with that for one another spirit will be rewarding every day. Try it out, and you will see how you will evolve yourself and the teams you are working with. Thank you very much.